Welcome to the official SaaStr podcast, where you can hear some of the best SaaStr speakers. This is where the cloud meets. Up today on the SaaStr podcast, you're either at the cutting edge of AI or you're getting displaced. And the question is just, what's the speed? If all your customers are on 5-year contracts, you can hide if you want. There is no middle ground anymore. That's the best advice I can tell you. One last thing I would say to founders on this. I wrote this on Twitter yesterday, and then I'm a longer post on SaaStr. Ask yourself, calmly use your own product. Is your jaw dropping? Is your jaw dropping? Almost if anyone that has even a couple million in revenue up to billions, at some point your product was a jaw dropper or you never would have gotten there. You utterly changed the lives of a stakeholder, of a customer. They didn't buy you because you're 1% better. They bought you because you're jaw-droppingly better, at least for some niche use case. Be honest, in the age of AI, are you as jaw-dropping as Claude? And if you're not, that's why you're decaying.
Hey, SaaStr, imagine having agents for every support tab. One that triages tickets, another that catches duplicates, one that spots churn risk. That'd be pretty amazing, right? Happybox just made it real with Autopilot. These pre-built AI agents deploy in about 60 seconds and run for as low as 2 cents per successful action. All of it sits inside the Happybox omnichannel AI first support stack. Chatbot, Copilot, and Autopilot working as one. Check them out at happybox.com/SaaStr.
Hey everybody, SaaStr Annual will be back May 2026, the world's largest SaaS and AI gathering for executives. Just this last May, we hosted 10,000 attendees with 68 VP level and above attendees, 36% CEOs and founders, and 25% were AI first professionals. It's the very best of S-tier attendees and decision makers that come to SaaStr Annual and AI Summit each and every year. But here's the reality, folks. The longer you wait, the higher ticket prices get. They're cheap now. They're cheap, so just get them. Early, lock in your spot today. Use my code JASON100 for exclusive savings. Get your tickets at podcast.SaaStrAnnual.com or just use code JASON100 when you check out. See you there. SaaStr Annual and AI Summit 2026. It will rock.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another SaaStr AI Live. We wanted to do a follow-up from the AI Day we did a couple weeks ago. We did not make it through the whole thing, and I actually think a lot has changed in those 2 weeks, just with the wider, let's say, release of Claude Cowork to a lot more users, including ourselves, to use, try, and then obviously I know also Claude Code. We got a lot of updates in the last 2 weeks, as well as just like the model that are core to Claude and OpenAI. So we wanted to do an update basically on where we're at, just with the lens of our journey of like building versus buying all these SaaStr AI agents and now apps, and kind of encompassing some of that with, everything that's been going on in the last 2 weeks, because a lot has happened. All right. I always like to put this slide first for those who need it. And just to preface, as always, you can go to SaaStr.ai/agents if you want more info on any of the either third-party tools or things that we buy, the apps we vibe coded today are all listed there. We have like a newer community listing that we have there as well that you can play around with and see what we use and how we use it. So that's that. Okay, so getting into this is the 90-10 rule, Jason, that you originated. So would love to get your thoughts here just to kind of kick us off. But basically our rule from the last, 9 months, 20 plus agents, 6 plus, now maybe 8 with the 2 that I'll focus on today that we made recently in the last 2 weeks. So a bunch of apps we've made both for internal purposes and then actually now external facing. The rule we've had has always been, buy 90% of what you need if you can off the shelf. Do it where, there's already a solution for this. Like, we're not trying to vibe code our own CRM tool or anything crazy like that. We have agents that we use for outbound and inbound. Those are all third-party tools. Like, I'm not even going to attempt to recreate those in what we're doing in vibe coding. So that's an interesting mix there. So we've pretty much bought 9% of what we've needed and only built the 10% where we either couldn't find a solution that really already existed pretty close to what we wanted off the shelf, or we had, in the case of our AI BPM, that'll walk you guys through a bit more, where we had a bunch of proprietary data that I had in one place. I basically had on my computer. We had like a bunch of years of data. I couldn't find a tool. And so that was also a reason where we went into the 10% of where it didn't exist. And then also more recently, I'll show you what we did with Claude Cowork and vibe coding is I actually did replace a tool in the last week we were paying for. So this is kind of a new, I don't know if you would consider it a caveat to the role, but this is a new one where, we were paying for a tool. It didn't some of what we needed off the shelf, but it didn't do enough. And so that's where I decided it was worth the effort to build our own tool in this scenario. But yeah, we do use a lot of third-party tools. I think in those evaluations, it's typically been, okay, are these vendors and tools we could trust? Again, does it do like most of what you're looking to do? And if it does, like there's so many, I think, nuances behind the scenes that are maybe unappreciated when you start vibe coding and learning how to do it really good. Things like compliance, things like security, data warehousing, like these are all things I don't want to tackle, even as good as we've gotten them. These are all things I don't want to tackle. The other thing I've already fallen into is the maintenance of all these apps, right? Like Jason spends a lot of time in his day doing maintenance of these apps. I have to spend a bunch of time with the apps I've created, maintaining them. And so it just kind of compounds on itself where then you're also now just spending time doing a bunch of app maintenance or agent maintenance. So it is a big time suck as well.
I think there's a lot to dig into in here. The only sort of meta thing I'll add for folks is Amelia will show you we rebuilt what I call an N=1 app. So the one this is just I want to go deep on what the apps you guys might be used that we use, but Amelia will show you we built this sponsor application for our sponsors. We have 150 sponsors for SaaStr Day in 2026 and may come. And what is interesting at a higher level is there is third-party application for these, what is called Sponsor Portal. It's a niche category of software. It's not big enough to justify significant investment. And the products are not, they just have not kept up with 2026. They're terrible. So we didn't want to build one. We built our own version of something we could buy for $5K and $10K and have for years, and we'll show you why. But I think there is a risk for folks building vertical apps, building niche apps. You should not build an agent if you can buy it or an AI app. But if you fall behind too far, folks may build it out of frustration. And that's more what we did rather than try to cancel our Salesforce bill. But this was one where we were driven to frustration by the mediocrity in this event software space to finally build our own. And it works. So it would be that's a lost customer forever for those vendors. So we'll show you that though. Keep going.
Yeah, I'll show folks. So yeah, this is my evolution of the 90-10 rule of, this, again, we've bought a lot of third-party tools are on SaaStr.ai/agents. You can see the ones we use multiple for outbound, we use one for inbound. But like when we go to evaluate things, right, again, if we can find a solution off the shelf, we're going to go for it, right? Like we are famously 3 humans, 1 dog, and like 20 something agents now and like 8 apps. So like we don't have a lot human manpower to keep up with these, to go through SOC 2 compliance, to, use a data warehouse other than Salesforce. Like a lot of our apps and agents all push back into Salesforce. It's a great system of record. I'm not trying to vibe code, an inbound agent. Like I'm not trying to vibe code another outbound SDR. Like there are things off the shelf that do that really well. It's not a good use of your time. I think that's the other thing too. Like just because it's feasible, sometimes it may not be the best thing to vibe code, even though you could maybe do it, because it's just going to be an ongoing time suck. Like I really had to weigh the pros and cons of vibe coding or Sponsor Portal because we had something off the shelf that worked. But I just got really frustrated that it was lacking a bunch of features that I knew would be possible to vibe code into an app and like make it better. I was like, you know what? This tool that we're using off the shelf has no AI, literally zero AI. And this is not a knock on them. Like this is maybe just a category of like event software has been untouched for a very long time. So, hosting SaaStr Annual, doing these events has been always a sore point of frustration that we're kind of hostage to a lot of vendors we end up having to use because there isn't anything better out there. But I knew it would be feasible. But I was not keen on doing it because I knew it would take time I needed to build in some like AI native features is like not my strong suit when it comes to vibe coding. And the other biggest thing was I did not want to tackle single sign-on. I was like, that is complicated. Like I am not an engineer. I, have been a go-to-market person. I don't know how to fix that. If I was like, what if that breaks? Like I'm screwed. Like I basically actually ended up giving myself a limit of like, okay, if I can't get single sign-on to work in a vibe coded app in a day, then I'm just going to use the off-the-shelf tool because I can't spend that much more time on it. Like I will give myself a day, see if I can do it, see if I can get the integrations to work, see if it'll work for real. And then I'll do all the other features because all the other features are like fairly simple. And I was like, if that works, then I'll launch it. But if not, I'll go back to what we were using because it's just too risky. I was like, this is super risky. Like we have 150 sponsors, millions of dollars of revenue and customers at SaaStr that rely on this portal and this backend to work and get the information they need to kind of be, a successful customer of ours and sponsor at SaaStr. And I was like, there's just a lot of writing on this. So it was definitely scary. And I would say the thing that kind of tipped me over the edge was, one, we're 9 months in, right? So I wouldn't say if you just started vibe coding or you've been kicking yourself on, okay, I need to start learning how to vibe code apps so I can see what's possible. I would not tackle this day one, right? This was after we've done, the valuation pitch calculator, the pitch deck grader. We have, SaaStr.ai is on a vibe coded website. SaaStr, this is after multiple vibe coded websites forward facing in production before I tried to even fathom tackling something like single sign on because I knew from those experiences that it was going to be complicated AF. I was like, it's going to suck. I already know it's going to suck. So I feel like that was a lot of hard. I was like, okay, because it's going to suck. I know it's going to suck. I'm going to give myself a day. But I also think it ties back to, I think there's all this social media hype around, okay, like what are people, obviously Lovable, Replit, on fire, Vercel, like all of these tools are on fire. They're all going to be at SaaStr. Like all these guys are, obviously benefiting from this. And I do think there's so many great stories coming out of people who have vibe coded things and are now profitable from apps that are in production. But if you actually look at Anton's tweet that Jason wrote up from, I think this was in the last week, like they posted, what are most people vibe coding? And I feel like this is super interesting because it really applies to the 90-10 rule of like, if you look at this, it's not till number 4 that he got to replacing, or rebuilding a custom built SaaS app the way that we did. Literally number 4. Number 1 is rapid prototyping. And that makes a ton of sense, right? Like you don't want to wait for your engineer team. Maybe you're on the go-to-market team, so you're not as technical, but you're like, I just need you to fix this on the website, or we have a new product, or we have a new case study, and this is how I want it. Like, it's perfect for that. Like, you don't have to get all in the weeds. Maybe your engineering team will take it and actually make it real and forward-facing. So, like, that's a great use case. That's a great, I think, also first use case where a lot of people come in to vibe coding. And I was like, okay, that makes a ton of sense. So it's just interesting to see that reflected in his data, what people are actually using vibe coded apps like Lovable for. I think 2, building internal tools. That's what we did with our AI BPM, which I'll show you guys next. Again, that made a ton of sense for us because we knew it was going to be internal facing, right? Low risk. We couldn't find an off the shelf tool to do what we wanted in marketing. Like too many of the marketing tools right now are either like actually sales tools that have a marketing wrapper around them or are just glorified copywriting tools. And that's not what we wanted. So that's where we fell into number 2 and built that tool. Number 3 is something we do a lot of. We actually do it a little bit more automated, but you can basically API into making slide decks real, right? So if you have something like, everyone's call recorders here, you could take a call recording, put that into, pick your poison tool, Zapier, and whatever, API it into Replit, Lovable, Gamma, have it spit out a custom website for the prospect you just talked to versus, waiting to send a generic deck to them. We do this all the time now. It's actually a really great use case for go-to-market, really low risk because you're just going to send it to that prospect, right? Like, if they share it around the org, great, but it's not for like the whole internet to see. It's you can password protect it, right? Fairly easily. It's pretty secure. Like there's probably nothing proprietary you're going to put in that deck on that website. Again, low risk. So it makes a ton of sense. So I think just interesting to see here. That's not till It's also number 4, where he was like, then we see people starting to recreate simple things. And I appreciate he said simple stuff. Not, it's like not complicated, simple thing like the ones I'll show you that we built. Super great projects, but not, again, we're not trying to rebuild Salesforce. I'm not trying to recreate our marketing automation platform. I'm not even trying to recreate the AI agents we bought off the shelf. Like those all do that really well. And there's just no need to build those things when you can feasibly buy them. So I'll show you some of the 2 things we've built more recently, and also why it's interesting that we've built these recently in the last 10K's like a month old out. And the sponsor portal is literally weak code. And I honestly, and part of that build versus buy, 2 very different reasons here. And also, I think part of my hesitation to rebuild something like SaaStr sponsors would have been greater had it not been for Claude Cowork coming out, right? So it came out, I would think, January. And beta, and you have to be on a max plan. So my max plan got it like Feb 1 or something. So I didn't have it for that long, but I was like, okay, between that being literally on my machine and then Claude also having Cowork in browser, I was like, like it can do a lot actually. It can see everything. It can take action for you. So I was like, you know what? If I get stuck vibe coding this SaaS app that I need for sponsors, because I know it's a little bit more complicated with like single sign-on and like it has some unique data that's like unique to each customer, let's say. And I was like, obviously single sign-on will tackle a lot of that, but if I get stuck, I felt confident having used Cowork for a couple of days to be like, okay, I think Claude could probably bail me out if I get stuck. And the other part of using Cowork so much was that because it's on my machine, and I was recreating an app we already used, it was easier to do it because it could already ingest all that stuff. Because again, it's on my machine, it was in my browser. And so it basically took all that good stuff, which I'll show you, and helped me write a spec for vibe coding. And then also helped me when I got stuck a couple of times with single sign-on to get unstuck. So like, I don't know if without it, I could have done the whole project and app to completion. I'm going to be honest. Like, I don't know if I could have. Because it just, it kept me to my restriction I put on myself of like, okay, if I can do this in a day, then I'll do it. But if I can't, I'm going to go back to the third party off the shelf tool we built, which I think is a good restriction. And it was a whole day. I was like, I have no meetings this day. I'm literally just going to figure out. I was like, don't talk to me, don't Slack me. I'm too expensive. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm like in a dark hole. And so I think there's 2 very different reasons here. Part of it to an earlier point you made, Jason, was this tool in particular for SaaStr sponsors that I decided to recreate with vibe coding had no AI features in it. I was like, it's February of 2026, and there is not one single AI, not even a lightweight AI feature. Nothing. Not like, hey, put the sponsor's name in, or you put your customer's name in, and then we'll use AI to backfill their address and their location and how many employees they have and their company size and where they're based and like give you a little blurb about them. I was like, that's AI 101. That's so basic for an agent to go into. Like, how is that not even in the app that we've been using for the past couple of years? And so I was super frustrated that there was literally 0 AI in the tool we were using. And I thought, you know what? I think it's just time to rip the Band-Aid and recreate it ourselves, because I know for a fact I could get AI not only into this tool, but it will make life easier if the single sign-on works. And so I would like, you know what? There is no, and to be fair, I also did look for a different third-party tool that maybe had more AI in it that would do this like unique sponsor, but it's fairly unique. Like this is, again, event SaaS apps are fairly behind and all this AI stuff. Like, there was not one I could find off the shelf to do this. Similar to the way that we built our AI VP of marketing, which is internal facing only. So I'll show you guys some screenshots of it, and then I'll show you SaaStr sponsors, which is external facing. Again, same thing. We could not find a third party tool more specifically for marketing. Obviously, there's a lot of sales tools out there that are really great that we're using. And sometimes I do use them for marketing, but I couldn't find one that was all encompassing. That was like, okay, I'm going to take all your data from the last 10 years. Like, this is something we also couldn't hire a human to do, because asking a new marketer to look at 10 years of data of, hey, what's worked for SaaStr, for sponsors, for tickets, for customers, for media. We have like a whole media business. Like, they would blow their brain. Like, it's too much. Like, it was just too much complexity. They'd be like, I don't know how to process all this as a human being. And so I was like, okay, clearly AI can easily actually process all this data, which it did. Like, it probably took a day because I followed this rule quite strictly. I gave it a day to like ingest all of our old data, come up with like analysis of it, come up with what's working, what's not working, what are we not doing, do some competitive analysis, what are other folks like a SaaS are doing, what's working in AI, like what are the benefits I can get out of putting and injecting more AI into this process. And then I let the AI run with it, right? I was like, okay, come up with an actual plan. And so that's what we did for these, again, 2 vibe coded tools. I think 2 very different reasons of like, one was internal facing. So I think to Anton's point, like that's a great reason to vibe code something if it's just going to be internal facing. The other one was, again, to replace a simple SaaS app, but also it had 0 AI functionality. So I was like, there's just no benefit to sticking with this tool. I'll also say, maybe to take a different angle on it, if that's you right now, that's where I would be worried. Like if you feel like your app has 0 AI, that was literally my first frontier to try and replacing something. And I was like, my bar is, does this tool already have AI in it? And it didn't. So I think if that's you, I'd be a little bit more worried.
Then build out
something
in AI in your app that really moves the needle. Yeah, you should give up. The LLMs are available to everybody. Everything got really good around last summer, fall with Claude 3.5, 3.7, and they're really good now. And it's not that hard. I mean, listen, I don't want to spend all this time. I want to show folks what we build and answer questions that we didn't get. But honestly, here's the tough part, guys. The VPM. Let's get to it because the VP marketing is niche to us. The sponsor portal. If Amelia with 2 days of hard work or day and a half is able to build something better than it's on the market, you should be embarrassed if you can't do that, right? So I think it's time to be honest and ask yourself, does your app still make your customers jaw drop? Is it still magical? Because there's really no excuse today, and you're going to be quickly disrupted and churned if you can't build something magical with your AI app today. Stuff's so good. But let's keep going.
Yeah, it's so good. It's yeah, and to your point, there are some good questions. So I'll walk you guys through both of our more recent custom built agents. And I think there's some good nuances here of like, could I build these 2 apps this time last year? Probably not. Like everything not only have things gotten really good over the last, more so 9 months than the last year, but in the last 2 weeks with the new models and obviously with Cowork, you could do a lot faster. And I think that's a big unlock that people haven't quite fully realized yet. I know I see a lot of folks who have realized this about Claude Code and, GPT coding and all that jazz. But I think just having Cowork sit in your machine, sit in your browser, see what you're doing, be able to take actions. It's honestly, it was the first time I was like, oh, I'm a little scared for myself. As the agent builder and as the person who has managed all these agents for the last 9 months, I was like, well, give them a year, they may not need me. They may not need me in a year. So we will see. Maybe we're more than a year off from that. But I was like, it's gotten scary good, crazy fast in the last 2 weeks. I'm like, it's only February 11th. Like, it's gotten really good. So going first to our custom AI BPM. So again, we couldn't find a tool that would do this. I did the real problem here was finding a tool too that could not only ingest all of our proprietary data from the last 10 years, right, which we needed AI to do. We knew that AI would be able to, like an agent would be able to understand all the data, would be able to come up with an action plan, like an actual coherent plan of, okay, here's what to do every single day. And I did it for a short time. I was like, let's do it for the next 6 months, right? It was January, now it's SaaStr. Let's do a 6-month marketing plan. And you're going to output from me first at a high level, right? So this was an iteration. It was all based on data of what's working, what has it for, our sales, for our marketing, for our go-to-market team. to really push us and keep us on track. I was like, I need something that will keep us honest and is also, other than the data, doesn't have bias, right? The agent is just going to look at everything across the board. It has real-time API inputs of where we are today, and it'll adjust in real time. It'll say, like today, it was kind of roasting me for being behind on our summits. I was like, I know, I'm getting there. You're faster than me, agent. And so it's just really interesting. So we custom built the AI BPM, more specifically using, third-party tools we already had, because I basically wanted to take the data of what's working the best and then put it into this new agent. I took a lot of, historical data. I put it into this agent. I used Zapier because obviously that powers a lot of other workflows to push back and forth and pull back and forth. So it's got webhooks, it's got APIs. It uses Salesforce as, our primary data instance. Again, I'm not trying to recreate the wheel on that one. It's a really great way to have data. Plus Salesforce already has a lot of data, right? It's got 10 years of SaaStr data. So I'm not going to try and recreate that. I'm just going to push and pull from Salesforce because it's already there, push everything back into Claude. And then we use Replit for this one to build an internal agent. You can use Replit or Lovable to build your internal agent. So we built 10K for two very specific reasons. One, because we needed more of a marketing orchestration tool and we couldn't find one. But two, also because, we wanted something that would help us get to keep us on. It's get us to the first 10K attendees for SaaStr Annual this year and help us drive the first 10K of revenue. And it's giving us literally actionable to dos. Every day, it's the first agent now I log into, other than our outbound and inbound agents. But this one is typically first because it keeps us honest of, okay, here are the campaigns you need to be running this week. Here's the copy for the campaigns. Here's the email copy. Here's the ad copy. Here's how much you should be spending on ads. Let me look at where you're at today. Every morning, I'm agent, look at where we're at today. It'll say, okay, here's where you're at towards those attendance and revenue goals and sponsorship goals. Here's where we should, adjust those levels and dials maybe a little bit more. Have you tried this thing? Or sometimes they'll be like, hey, I'm thinking of doing this, which is not our game plan. Is it a waste of time or not? It's a really good co-pilot for me to bounce ideas off of. So that's our AI BPM. It's more so internal facing, but I'll go back to what it looked like for a second. So this left-hand rail is what our AI agent looks like. Again, it's got a lot of proprietary data. So I took some screenshots that were more high level. But this is, it's okay, here's the setup week, here's the launch week, here's how many tickets you need each week. When you click them, then these are also further clickable. It'll say, okay, here's what you need to do this week, right? It's telling me hey, create this promo code. Make sure Jason 20 is on, which it is. Make sure you're running ads to it. Make sure all of your AI SDRs are optimized for sponsorships and tickets. Here are the campaigns. Here are the target audience you need to hit. Here's what you should promote to them. It's literally giving us all these things, which has been a super handy day-to-day tool. And it's been, again, just a nice co-pilot to have kind of off the shelf. But again, it's high stakes in the fact that we rely on this now, but low stakes from the fact that only our internal team needs to access it. We had to hook up some APIs to it to have real-time data, but other than that, it's not trying to solve anything crazy. And so for all intents and purposes, it's a simple SaaS app or co-pilot or agent or whatever you want to call it, but it works pretty well. Okay. SaaStr Sponsors is our newest one. This is the one that I use Cowork a lot more for. If you can actually go to SaaStrSponsors.com. So this is external facing. If you're logged out, which I'm logged in, you'll still see a bunch of the stuff. If you want to take a look at the website just to see how it works, that you can go to it. We decided we would just leave it open, and then you would only need to sign in for things if you wanted to actually submit a task, you have to sign in. To pick your booth, you have to sign in. So, you can't take your competitor's booth to be really far from you. It's got some gated features there, but for all intents and purposes, we were a lot of our sponsors have either third-party agencies or other contractors they work with when it comes to something like SaaStr. So we're going to keep it open so that anybody can access most of the information at any given time just to see it at a glance. But if they need to take an action, that's when it'll prompt them to sign in. Interestingly, that is something that I wrote into the spec with Claude. And I'll actually show you that, and then I'll come back to the website. So, other said we were paying for an existing tool here, but I'll open up my Claude chat. So, this is the whole chat. I linked it in the slides. So if you want to read my whole chat with Claude on speccing out the sponsor portal that I built, go for it. I actually think it's a super important step if you are going to vibe code your own simple SaaS app, is to write the spec first. And actually, that was a pro tip from Jason, is to write the spec first so that it's kind of like bounded. It knows its parameters. It knows what it's going to do. And it's not going to go crazy on like trying to self-validate and do like a bunch of crazy features that maybe would break and that you don't need. But also in the new spec, make sure you have, basic AI features and tooling. Make sure that anything I put in is going to be able to have that functionality. Like let's benefit from AI. Like let's build that into the platform where the other one didn't have it. And then certainly you can see it's here first. I was like, most importantly, it needs to have single sign-on. So whatever you write for the spec needs to keep that in mind, that like it's going to be a single sign-on tool. I literally said to Claude, I want to keep it open since our customers have people that are going to work on their event sponsorships with like their agencies. That's super common, right? These are really big companies. So sometimes some are startups, and so sometimes it's also like the CEO or like their chief of staff is on it. And so I wrote that onto the spec. You can read it all there when you're bored later, but I think it's a good format to always write the spec first, to be able to do. And then have a conversation with it of like, okay, does this look good? Mine looked pretty good, V1. So I was like, okay, this looks like what I want. And so that was the first thing I did before I went into, in this case, these screenshots are from Replit. So then I took what I wrote with Claude as a spec and I put it into Replit. And you can see when I very first started, I said, how can I add true single sign-on, not like faux single sign-on? Sometimes the vibe coding apps, like it'll do stuff that's not real. I was like, true single sign-on, make it actually real. And I wanted to do this because if as simple as it sounds, actually our old third-party tool we were using for this didn't have persistent single sign-on. So like if I signed into our previous application of this and I, submitted a bunch of stuff to SaaStr and then Jason logged in, let's say to the same instance, he wouldn't see what I did. For some reason, it wasn't persistent. So that part had always kind of annoyed me. And so I was like, oh, I want to do true single sign-on across the org so that, we only gate things that we need to. Anybody from their agency can do it. But also, make it smart enough where like if they join and it's their company domain org, that anybody can join. Because the other annoying thing we had to do with our old platform is like me or Wendy, who's on our production team, or David would literally have to invite somebody anytime they needed to add somebody to their instance. And I was like, why? This is the age of AI. Like, can't you just look at their domain, see if they're a sponsor, and then like let them into the portal? And the answer was yes, it could do that. And so that's where, again, I used a mix of Cowork to help me think through this, as well as the Replit agent that is just in the agent to say, okay, what can I use to tackle single sign-on? It's not a native integration yet, but I think it's coming. They use a tool called Clerk to tackle single sign-on. And I was like, okay, let's do it. So I had to sign up for Clerk. And then my chat's really long after this, but this is how I go through building true single sign-on and some light AI features into this app that we were previously using. So yeah, this is what it came out with. I think part of where I used Cowork a lot too for this tool specifically, I was also like, okay, you've now ingested and written a spec for the new portal. Great. I already gave that to my vibe coding app. Now take all the information from this year and put it into this, help me rewrite it so that I can give it to the Replit agent to put into this portal. So I don't have to copy paste a million freaking times. Like, just do it for me. And then the other thing I did was actually made this a lot smoother and a lot faster. I just gave Claude Cowork, because it's on my machine, I already had all the contracts, right, of all of our current sponsors, all of our current customers for SaaStr Annual this year. And I said, work in this folder, go through each contract, and this is what you're going to need to do to create this app. And I told Claude specifically, write it in a way that a vibe coding app will understand it, because I'm going to give it to the vibe coding agent. I'm basically going to output with you as an agent and give it to another agent to deploy. And it said, okay, I'm ready. And it worked in my, on my machine in this folder. It went through all the contracts, etc. And it came out, and I told it to look for a few specific things. I was like, one, make sure you're capturing the company, their URL, etc. 2, make sure you read each contract to see how many sponsor passes they have, because this is important for registration. And that's like one of the first things people do when they log into the sponsor portal. I like to see how many customer passes they have, see if they have any speaking stuff, and then also tell me what day they sign so that I know what order that they'll be in for booth selection, because that's what we use for booth selection. It did that in, I want to say it took like an hour, because there's a lot of contracts they have to read. They're a little complicated, and I checked it. So maybe a little less than an hour, but let's just say an hour. It took Claude Cowork an hour to do that. And then I told Claude, okay, great. Like all the data looks good. Now go into our event registration platform, because I had it open on my browser. I was like, just click into it and start creating the codes. It started making the codes on its own. Again, probably took another 20 minutes to do that. It went through everybody, made their codes. I was like, great, now make all of their customer nomination passcodes and all their promo codes and all that. Everything I just did there with like Claude Cowork in a couple hours, we used to do with a human. We'd be like, hey, check the sponsor list, check our contract, like go into each contract one by one, read it yourself, put it into Bizbo, tell them how many tickets they have, create the promo code, and then email it to them. Because back in the day, our old tool we were using couldn't ingest unique codes like this. So when I click this one, it goes to like a SaaStr code. And when, a different sponsor clicks theirs, it goes to their sponsor code. I'm not going to show you their codes so that you don't use them, but it goes to their unique registration code for them. And so I was like, that literally used to take us a day, and Claude just wiped it out and, he knocked it out in like an hour or two. Like, what a champ. So it was super interesting, right? I was like, I know this is something that AI could feasibly do a little bit better. It also like made this entire timeline of what we do. It made our campus map more interactive, so that when sponsors come in here for the first time and get a lay of the land, they know exactly like, okay, what do these clouds mean? Like if you're a first timer, it's probably a little hard. So it added all these widgets so that you could see what they are. Pretty cool. And so there's a lot of other stuff in there. Like I said, you can feel free to go to SaaStrsponsors.com. That's what we built. May not be relevant to, well, if you're coming to SaaStr, it's still got like the days and times on there. I think it's just interesting to click through it and see what is feasible and possible as a now forward-facing app. I'll say my biggest fear I had when I tested, I would say it took me like an extra half day on SaaStr sponsors to deploy, just because I was testing everything so much. I was like, I have not done, again, I'm not an engineer. I've not done single sign-on ever before in my life. It's the first time I'm doing it. So I want to make sure it works. I would like sign in as like different emails. I'd be like, okay, let me try to submit something there and do something there. I was like, I don't know, it worked. Like I kept waiting for it to break a little bit more. I don't know. I was like, this single sign-on is working. Like, could it be that we've built a better vibe coding tool than what we were using previously? And this is the first iteration of it, right? Like it's February. There's still some time to SaaStr, so we're going to build a few more things into the SaaStr sponsors. But it was, again, I don't know if I could have done it without the Cowork element involved. Maybe it would have taken me a lot longer. I also got like a little bit stuck at one point with single sign-on, and it was like, try to tell Replit to do this. Well, okay, I told it, and then it worked. So it did help a lot as like my buddy for me to get this all done. But what's the catch, right? And then we'll do Q&A. So I think I mentioned it at the top, but biggest catch here is, again, if you're just starting to explore vibe coding, if you're in one of those 3 buckets of you haven't really built out an app or agent yet that is to this level of sophistication, I wouldn't feel embarrassed in any way by that. Like this was it's still simple on the surface, but was still a little bit more complicated to deploy. And so I don't think I could have done it, 9 months ago. This is only having built other apps into production, different websites, different things that are now out there in the universe that I knew feasibly it could be done if I just solved this single sign-on thing. And so that was the biggest risk. And so I spent a little bit more time on that. That was the majority of my time, is making sure that would work, and then programming it, and then doing a bunch of extra testing, because I was like, I don't want to send this to 100 sponsors. And then I get 100. I was like, my worst nightmare is if I code this thing, I send to 100 people and they're like, Amelia, I can't log in, or I can't do this, or my registration code is wrong, or it told me I was a platinum and really I'm a gold. Like I had so much fear that it was going to get some of this wrong that I spent extra time testing it. And I was like, I don't know, man. I've tested it all I could. Like it's working. Like it works. And so then I sent it to like 12 sponsors. I was like, let me send it to 12 people, see if it works. And then they were submitting. There weren't any issues. I could see what they were submitting because I also told the app to build me what I call a super admin backend, so I can see anytime somebody submits anything, which is super cool, which the other tool didn't have. And so this is really, again, it was a scary situation, but one where I was like, okay, I've tested it enough. I just have to ship it to the first 12 people, see if anything breaks, and then go from there. But it was honestly my worst nightmare to be like, if this doesn't work, I was just going to go back to the other tools if it doesn't work because I can't deal with like 1,000 emails that they can't get into the portal. Because the benefits will not outweigh the cost. But yeah, the other thing is like, I do keep futzing with it, which I need to not. Like, there are other things I want to build into this portal now where I'm like, oh, what if we did this? And what if we did that? And what if we did, like, now that all the basics work and they're working fine and they work well, I'm like, there's all these other things I want to do now, but I actually need to stop messing with it. It's hard to do that, I think, to some degree, because it's also a little bit detrimental to my time. I'm like, I just need to, again, that's not something I would be doing if I just bought an off-the-shelf tool. Like, some of them are how they are, right? Like, you can do some additional agent training and you can do new campaigns or whatever, but you're not futzing with the actual like app and the back end itself. So I was like, I'm just going to stop because I have to. So all of that to say, can you really vibe code an app into production? You can, but obviously with a lot of asterisks and daggers there. It should be something simple. It should be something where, you have something either proprietary or stuff like this where you can't find an off-the-shelf solution. Again, if you boil down the things we've done with it, which are, websites, valuation calculators, now this SaaStr Sponsors one, which is basically a project management tool, if you think about it. It's not super like they are complex, but they're not complicated in the sense that like feasibly, yes, you can do these things again, versus like trying to buy code your own. I'm not going to try and buy code my own CRM and like recreate 10 years of data, touch points, and who opened this email and when. Like, that's too complicated. I'm not going to, it's also just not worth the trade-offs of, buying Salesforce versus building something like this. I think too, why we've bought versus built a lot of things we use is a lot of these third-party tools, at least today, are, they're compliant, whatever you need. Some of you only like SOC 2 or whatever, or ISO, whatever. They're secure, right? Your data is safe. Like, this is, again, neither of these two tools I've built recently are storing like super proprietary data. So to some degree, there's probably a little bit of risk there, but it's worth the trade-off because it's not anything is not the end of the world there. Again, it's not like table stakes. And typically too, these apps that we've bought and have, we have an FDE at each of these. And that's not unique to us. That's just, how these products work in this day and age. Most folks will pair you with an FDE to get it going and to help you run it and deploy it, which again, for a time perspective, has a lot of benefits to somebody who knows how to do this fully. I'm going to let them do it. Like, I'm going to spend, once a week with them. Like, I spend once a week with like qualified hours and Agentforce, but I'm like, hey, it's, 15 minutes here. Things I'm kind of looking for our agent to do. They go off and do it. And then we come back. Like, I'm not spending the rest of my week trying to futz with these agents all day long because they can't. Like, there's other things to do.
One Captain Obvious point though, to Captain all the stuff. Obviously, everything, the quality of these apps you can create yourself is accelerating. If you haven't done it or don't get it, now's the best time to start vibe coding, right? If you have to, right? The next best time is probably next week because the pace of acceleration is so great. Stating the obvious, I asked Claude what the value of Amelia's time was. And Claude said, depending on how you calculate it, between $1,000 and $2,000 an hour. Right. That's her time. Now that we're such a lean team with so many agents, so few humans, so there's no economic justification for software costs to building these apps, right? You can buy them for 10 grand. Like, it makes no economic sense. So you have to really need something that you can't buy today. It's almost beyond the 90-20 rule. If your time is if you're working in Tulum or Bali and you're just futzing around, I don't know, your time might be worth $5 an hour. I don't know, but This is something we had to build for someone built that's worth $1,000 to $2,000 an hour. You have to be careful to bound your time. You have to be careful to not futz. But that's the bar for us to build something versus buying something. It is not economic. So then, yeah, that's what Claude said. But it is worth it because these are high impact things where we get extremely high value out of an AI VP of marketing, and a sponsor portal that will interact and manage 10 million of revenue and make that process infinitely better than it's been the last 10 years, like infinitely better with AI. So those are two thoughts, but we can go to questions from there.
Yeah, it's fine. It's not like somebody asked me yesterday, like, hey, would you white label the stats for sponsors? I'm like, just about it.
No, I think it is, but then you have to support all the customers. You have to do all of it, right? The future of vibe coding actually, and we've worked closely with the Replit team on this. It is early, is now that you can really build these things for real. And when we started on Replit last summer, and it was true of Lovable and Bolt and others, it was very hard to get something into production. It was, if you've watched my journey. Now, if you put in the time and you have some familiarity with how to build software, you can build most apps that you want to. It's radically better. So the next frontier is maintaining them. And all the stuff, if you talk about vibe coding, is about building, getting going. And we're going to have a whole Replit vibe code at SaaStr AI 2026 in May 12 through 14. Yep. We'll help you build apps and come. It'll be fun. You can build your own B2B app together. It will be very unique. And we're going to promote that all. And we're going to have a whole day called SaaStr Deploy on the 12th, just about deploying agents. We're going to teach you how to do all of it and get you into production. But now that you can actually build these apps into production, who's going to maintain them for the next 5 years? So white labeling sounds fun, but for us, if we couldn't make millions from it, it wouldn't be worth doing the customer facing side. And so let's get to more questions. But the interesting frontier, not to get distracted, is who will maintain these apps. And the now that we have 10 or 20 agents running and probably 10 apps we built ourselves, it's us, right? And so the maintenance goes more and more to the top. So issues to work on in 2026, but very interesting.
Yeah, I do hope one of my agents, probably Claude, can get good enough to manage the others a little bit more.
It's a dream right now, no matter what.
It's a dream right now. I know. It doesn't, sometimes it relates to the first question that we have. Sometimes he times out. Like even on my Mac, I'm like, what? Like I'm on like the beefiest MacBook Pro you can have. Like maybe I need to move to a Mac Mini in a closet, but sometimes I'll time out on my machine. I'm like, dude.
Yeah, but the app does, but these apps don't time out.
Yeah. So it's just a little funny. Okay, the first question from Kelly is, what percentage of SaaS companies are you seeing now get hit with the current market conditions? That's probably a better question for you, Jason. Are you able to share anything about your conversations with folks in the SaaStr community on what makes them successful to avoid some of the kind of market reaction lately?
Well, look, the market reaction is brutal. I mean, Shopify had an incredible quarter they just announced while we were doing this. Growing 30% at I think 12 billion in revenue, and it's the what the market did. It's down 10.4% today. It's brutal out there, and what can you do? Well, first of all, we'll on 20VC with Harry and Rory, we have Michael Cannon-Brooks, the CEO of Atlassian, coming to talk about it live. We recorded it yesterday. So listen on Thursday to that pod. It's pretty good because Mike talks a lot about this, practically speaking. His response is there's nothing he can do. He's got to go with it. He's got to motivate the team and get them through it. It's like, Atlassian beat the quarter. It's reaccelerating at 5 billion in revenue and it trades at 4x ARR. Like our world that we know doesn't really work if Atlassian gets 4x ARR, or if Shopify growing 30% at 12 billion falls 10.4%, the world that we've grown up in the last decade doesn't really work well. And you really can have two options. You can sort of hope and pray that we get back to the old days. I think that's what most startups are doing. When I get investor updates from folks that aren't that AI forward, that are still single product, they're just kind of hoping that things will get better because they're not publicly traded. But the simple answer is, you have to get AI budget. You have to grow faster. That is what the world's saying. It's hard. Cry me a river. Like you have to grow faster every single quarter. And if you're not in B2B, you're not getting AI budget. You're not changing the world. We had to build the sponsor portal because the dated, crappy SaaS B2B products weren't agent level. They weren't disruptive. But the one we've built is disruptive. Now hundreds and hundreds of human hours are going away because AI can handle the sponsor portal. That's what you have to build. something that good, or it's going to get canceled like this 10K product we just aren't renewing. They may not even know yet because we've ghosted them. We don't need them. There's no chance to save the deal. We've already built our own. It's happening to folks. You're either at the cutting edge of AI or you're getting displaced. And the question is just, what's the speed? If all your customers are on 5-year contracts, you can hide if you want. But everyone, there is no middle ground anymore. That's the best advice I can tell you. And then one last thing I would say to founders on this, I wrote this on Twitter yesterday, and then I'm a longer post on SaaStr. Ask yourself, calmly use your own product. Is your jaw dropping? Is your jaw dropping? Almost if anyone that has even a couple million in revenue up to billions, at some point your product was a jaw dropper, or you never would have gotten there. You utterly changed the lives of a stakeholder, of a customer. They didn't buy you because you're 1% better. They bought you because you were jaw-droppingly better, at least for some niche use case. Be honest. In the age of AI, are you as jaw-dropping as Claude? And if you're not, that's why you're decaying. And you've got to find that jaw-dropping AI moment where your jaw drops, that your AI agent is so good you can't believe that was even possible 6 months ago. That's how you're going to build a $10 billion company today, or you're going to end up trading at 1x revenue. There's nothing in the middle. So ask yourself honestly, would you renew your own product today? Would you pay more for your product than last year? And would your jaw drop if you're exposed to your product? Or are you trying to ram something through with a decaying sales and marketing team that is not a jaw dropper anymore? That is not a wow moment. Where's your wow moment from AI? They're all over the place. All the SaaStr AI tools we put up on SaaStr.ai/agents they're wow, that your jaw drops when you use them, right? Sam Blond launched a tool, Monaco. It's our next AI SDR tool. Like, we don't need another one. It launched today. You can find links to it on our agent page. It's even better than the other ones. You know what it does with this Monaco one? Like, it finds your ICP, it calls them for you and sets up a phone call or a meeting for you directly. You don't even have to do any cadences or anything. It literally sets up meetings for you in your calendar for real that have been confirmed with a human. I mean, that's a jaw dropper, isn't it? Amelia didn't even believe how good it was until she saw it. And it's a jaw dropper. You want to pay $50K, $100K for a jaw dropper? Yes. Do I want to pay $200 a month for another crappy project management tool? No. That's today.
Yeah, I give just to tie it all in, right? Like, I think the big thing that took me over the edge the last 2 weeks was like, I was like, okay, it's time to redeploy our sponsor portal. But again, the one we've used has zero AI, and that killed. I was like, I can't be SaaStr AI and deploy something that has no AI in it. Like, that's just totally terrible that they haven't done at least the very basics with AI. But it's funny because after I showed it to you, just I think you made the comment like, well, what about these other apps? And you named a couple other ones where I was like, honestly, I feel like I could start to rebuild those. Maybe not till after annual, but there's a few now that I'm like literally looking at where I'm like, they fall into the same bucket of they have not benefited from AI at all. There's just no new AI features. There's nothing good about it. There's no benefits to it. I'm like, I'll probably move off those 2 or 3 other tools we named next because there's no benefit to staying. Like, there just really isn't. So, Monaco's the newest agent. We've already started using it. We just got onboarded last Friday. So, we'll check in like another week or so and tell you guys where we're at on it. Sam, who you guys might have known from Brex, who was the CRO there, launched this tool after, going through this very frustrating process on his own of, trying to wrangle human SDRs and VPs of sales and other folks to do outbound. But also when you're starting out and you're less of a, maybe name brand as Brex became and then got bought, you may have problems at the early stage filling your pipeline, right? If you're at super early stages, you may have nothing in your CRM. And so Monaco's really cool. We're actually using it for a very unique use case that I think it's totally not their ICP, but the tool's pretty good. In fact, it's like, you gotta let me think. Billy, what do you have? Do you already have like 3 or 4 sales agents? I was like, yeah, but this one's so good that you gotta let me use it because I was like, I have another use case for it. Like, I have another part of sales and go to market that's not being tackled that I want to tackle with this agent, and then this agent can go deep on that. And so I'm pretty stoked. I'll go to the next question. That's Monaco. You guys should check it out. It's monaco.com. They actually own that domain. That's an interesting story, but maybe we'll have Sam on next time to talk about that too. Okay. Then the last question here. Let me get back to our chat. Someone asked if we've been looking at OpenClaw or Claudebot. Do you want to quickly explain that Ren is on?
We haven't. Listen, I get why engineers are interested. Let me a simple answer. It's not interesting to us today, and breaking guardrails and having rogue agents running around is just not something we need. I get it's very interesting, and we built an app called Ren AI. You can use it. It runs autonomously and has extended memory. So I get the appeal of it, but it's really not for what we want to do, which is, GTM type stuff. Anything that needs to run autonomously, we can just have an app run autonomously. We can just have these apps that we built on Replit run 24/7. It's really not, I'm not saying it's not exciting, but we're not interested in breaking guardrails. Actually, what's more important for us is making sure the guardrails work. Exciting, but today we don't need this stuff. Like, it's not that I'm not interesting. We're all over Moltbook. You can watch the things our agent wrote about buying $400,000 of watches that we didn't ask for, and other things which are all sort of fake that our agent wrote, and we built versions of it. But I know I just think that what's much more exciting is just having well guardrailed agents that know your data cold and can run on their own. That's all we need today. So I'd say we move on to the next question. Thanks.
Yep. This question from Steve was, you mentioned that some of your web page apps are public facing. What are you doing currently to protect the vibe coded apps and tools from attacks? How have you tested this?
Look, I think it's a great question. And I think it's something that the platforms, first of all, I'll give you two simple answers. One, the platforms have gotten better. They all do basic security scans. When you launch an app now, they look for private keys you've embedded in the code. They look for other things. They do a lot of the basic stuff, which is helpful. Two, one way or another, what you should do with the agents now is they're pretty good. You can do this in Claude code. You can do it in Replit. You can do it in Lovable. Is ask them to do the deepest security audit possible on your app, at least once every month or two. And they're pretty good at it. And it will, I'm not saying it's perfect, but it's better than most probably low-end developers would do if you had an outsourced dev shop, and they'll find an infinite number of issues, and it will take you hours and hours and hours and hours to fix them and undo it. And it will overlock your app down, and it will stop you from able to do uploads, and it will block your internal APIs, and it will drive you crazy. And each time we do an internal security update, it takes about a week to recover, to fix all the stuff we have to fix and unfix and refix. And there are more and more third-party tools. It's a real issue. It's a large issue, and it is not an issue that's fully solved. But the platforms are getting better. And then before you release anything with any customer-facing art, at least with the agent, tell them to do the most in-depth security audit possible. And I'm not a security expert, but as a SaaS founder, I've lived so many of the issues. I've been through so many security audits. We've done our own. I think you will get a decent outcome, but it is an open area.
Yep. Question related to just our time trade-offs. Do we have enough time to do everything else that we're supposed to do?
We're at the limit. It's an interesting issue for the future. It's an interesting issue for your team. I mean, there are better people to build and manage agents than me and Amelia out there, but there's not like so many. And how many folks do you have on your team? Like, who on your team could you hand these apps off to? Who can you hand off your agent management? I'm sure there are folks you are on your team that can do it, but I think honestly, you're probably lucky if 1% to 5% of your team we could offload the management we have. And I think it's a challenging issue of how many. We are at the max. We did add Monaco, which we love, but only because it's disruptive, only because it fills a gap that we don't have. Otherwise, we would not add another GTM agent. We're just overloaded with the inputs we have, right? So I think this is an issue that most folks haven't contended with, but we're at our max, and we're going to learn this year how to do it.
Yeah. Okay. With that, so to Jason's point, if you want to learn more, I use some of the SaaStr Annual branding for the slide deck, but SaaStrAnnual.com will be there in May. We're doing a full deploy day that's new on Tuesday. So content just like this on deploying agents, Some of it we'll probably do, but otherwise it's going to be mostly other folks telling you how to deploy different kinds of agents. They'll go deep, they'll do deep dives. So that'll be exciting to that. Thanks all for joining here. Thanks for the nice comments and all that jazz. And we will do another one of these fairly soon because the world keeps changing it seems like every week. So we'll do this soon. But yeah, in the meantime, if you want to know more about the market and stuff, listen to it's the 20 BC podcast that Jason does with Harry and Rory every week. It is Thursday. It drops Thursday morning. You can go to the 20 BC YouTube to watch it. There's a lot of really good insights. There's no politics, much like this. So highly recommend listening / watching that one too. With that, thanks for joining. See you guys next time. Hey, SaaStr, imagine having agents for every support task. One that triages tickets, another that catches duplicates, one that spots churn risk. That'd be pretty amazing, right? HappyFox just made it real with Autopilot. These pre-built AI agents deploy in about 60 seconds and run for as low as 2 cents per successful action. All of it sits inside the HappyFox omnichannel AI-first support stack. Chatbot, Copilot, and Autopilot working as one. Check them out at happyfox.com/SaaStr.